Our miracle planet is ever-changing. Over vast timescales, continents travel and climates swing, forcing all creatures to find original ways to survive. This is a journey to understand one force that shapes all life. Evolution, the life force of our planet. Brazil's Cerrado is a vast grassland that mirrors the great African savanna. But where are the herds of antelope and the predators that chase them? The Cerrado appears empty, but in this mysterious land, appearances are deceiving. It teems with bizarre life. The predator is a mutant mammal with a tongue longer than a human arm. The wolf eats fruit. Monkeys walk upright just like humans. The ghosts of long-extinct creatures haunt the grassland, providing clues to a violent past. In this vast theater of evolution, every creature survives thanks to its superior mutations. And because the players evolved together in a community like no other. How does this strange world work? And how did it come to be? South America, and sprawling across central Brazil, lies the Cerrado, meaning inaccessible. A 200 million hectare grassland 3 times the size of Texas. On this night in late October, it's as if the stars themselves have fallen to earth. A mysterious phenomenon that has existed for millions of years. Daylight reveals a bizarre landscape. The Cerrado trademark, termite mounds. Many termite mounds. Up to 320 per hectare. The dry season has begun. 6 months of almost no rainfall. A serious drought to test every inhabitant. But where are they? The landscape seems empty except for the mounds. But there is movement. It's a giant anteater on an early morning forage. With a 2.1 meter long, 36 kilogram body. Claws like a bear. And a tail like a witch's broom. The giant anteater is one bizarre-looking mammal. This is a female. And she has a baby, about 6 months old. Since birth, he's been traveling on his mom's back. Perfectly camouflaged in the markings of her coat. As she shuffles around the Cerrado grassland. She's called an anteater, but termites do equally as well. From the outside, termite mounds seem relatively deserted. But inside is an architectural masterpiece of tunnels, galleries, and chambers bustling with millions of termites. And the anteater has the sensory and physical tools to get them. Though nearly blind, she has a sense of smell 40 times more powerful than humans. So finding the feast is easy. The termite mounds are clay fortresses. But the anteater's claws are designed for breaking and entering. And her specialized mouth parts do the rest. The giant anteater has no teeth, and her tongue extends over half a meter. It's attached by muscles at the bottom of her breastbone. They propel the tongue as it flicks in and out more than 150 times a minute. Prey is glued by sticky saliva produced from giant salivary glands, and then sucked up through a narrow tube inside her fused jaws. She can slurp up to 30,000 termites a day, which is what she needs to stay alive. So why eat such a tiny food source? The answer lies in what the termites eat. After dark, legions of worker termites venture outside their home. They work at night because these mound dwellers can't survive in sunlight. Collectively, each mound gathers as much as 45 kilograms of dry grasses and plants in one night. About 4 times the amount of grass a cow can eat in a day. Inside each mound, the termites feast on the grass, transforming it into protein in their digestive systems. With each mound housing more than 1 million protein-packed termites, this isn't such a bad diet for a giant after all. The armor-plated armadillo is the anteater's smaller cousin, with a similar taste for termites. Protected from predators by his bony plates of overlapping armor, he lacks a super long tongue, so he digs ants and termites out of the ground. But there is one part of the termite mound that no armadillo or anteater can probe. Deep in an underground chamber lies a monstrous form. It's the termite queen who controls the colony. As the only breeder, she lays tens of thousands of eggs a day, producing a vast family of brothers and sisters. The eggs are fed pheromones before they hatch, predetermining their future role. But all work unceasingly for colony survival, expanding the mound as the family grows. It takes decades of construction to build a new termite mound. But fossil remains prove termites have had over 200 million years of practice. So why is it that armadillos and giant anteaters are unique to South America when termites are widespread across the planet? A bird's eye view of the ancient Cerrado gives us a clue. The landscape looks very much like the great African savanna. The climatic cycle of drought and rain on the Cerrado is also similar to the African grasslands. And this giant rhea looks very much like the African ostrich. The male taking care of the eggs just like the male ostrich does. It's no coincidence. $180 million years ago, South America, Africa, and Antarctica were all connected as part of the densely forested giant supercontinent Gondwana. Around 150 million years ago, Africa began to split from South America, a process lasting 45 million years. As the continents separated, the first small mammals were emerging, so some were trapped in Africa and others in South America, where they began evolving along very different pathways. The majority of South America was still covered in dense forests when the giant anteaters family appeared. They are called Xenarthra, meaning strange joints, because unlike any other mammal, they have extra joints between their vertebrae, which strengthen their backs and aid their forelegs when digging into mounds. DNA shows the first Xenarthran appeared in South America around 70 million years ago. About 5 million years later, the ancestral Xenarthran evolved into many. One branch of the family tree produced the armor-plated creatures like armadillos. Another branch produced families of hairy Xenarthrans, including the anteaters. Many ancient Xenarthrans became extinct. But the giant anteater and the armor-plated armadillo survived. Millions of years of tiny mutations in their DNA produced jaws, tongues, and claws perfectly refined for harvesting ants and termites. The giant anteater's lifestyle became totally centered on the termite mounds. The relationship between predator and prey appears to be a one-way street. It's fine for the anteater, but how do the tiny termites fight off a giant and survive? It's now well into the dry season on the Brazilian Cerrado, and all the moisture from the rainy season is long gone. But the female anteater continues her routine knuckle walk among the 300 or so mounds she visits every day. Mound-busting curved claws grow over 15 centimeters long and are as difficult to walk on as stilettos. So she's evolved to walk on the sides of her feet. She requires 30,000 termites a day to power her large body and produce milk for her baby. But curiously, she spends only 3 minutes at each mound, as if she's timing herself with a stopwatch. She devotes devotes at least 2 of those minutes to the energy-sapping job of busting into the mound. She could easily destroy the whole mound with a few swipes of her hooked claws, and eat all the termites she needs. But she won't. Soldier termites, alerted by her breach of her mound, go on the attack. But her dense coat protects her from their bites for the minute she has to suck up her termite feast. This is one of the most effective examples of predator-prey coevolution in the animal kingdom. The anteater usually makes just one hole in each mound and sucks up approximately the same amount of termites at each. The mound suffers minimal damage, and the workers quickly repair it with tiny pellets of soil-coated feces. Remarkably, each loss of termites stimulates the queen to lay more eggs, which develop as workers to replace those eaten by the anteater. So the population remains stable. In this ancient contract between predator and prey, the termites force the anteater to move on before she destroys the colony, which ensures a future for both. But it's not just the anteater who relies on the termite mounds. Each has its share of squatters who take advantage of the termites' architectural skills. Some of the concrete hard walls are punctured by a number of holes different from those made by feasting anteaters. These are made by campoflickers, a relative of the woodpecker that's adapted to the Cerrado. With few trees, the flicker bird builds its nests in the well-ventilated mounds, and meals are included. Any termite that tries to repair the nest hole gets eaten. A mated pair of small owls also live underneath the mound. Unlike most owls, the burrowing owl is sometimes active during daylight, and tall mounds give the pair a bird's-eye view of their hunting ground. On the Cerrado, the termite mounds are the heart of the community and the foundation of an evolutionary masterpiece that links all life on this grassland. But that doesn't explain how tiny termites and weird xanathrans have come to dominate the Cerrado, instead of the grazing antelope and the big cats of Africa's savanna. Something significant must have happened here. But for a long time, no one knew exactly what. The answer was found in 1988, southwest of Brazil's Cerrado, in the Tinguarica Valley, deep in the Chilean Andes. Paleobiologists discovered a treasure trove of 30-million-year-old fossils, which opened a remarkable window into the past. Professor Darren Croft displays a fossil from that dig.
This is a skull of an animal called Hegeditherium. This animal was medium-sized for an odoungulate, probably about the size of a fox. Notoungulates were a really diverse group. They had very small ones, very big ones. and each family had its own particular series of attributes.
It seems that large herds of hoofed herbivores, or natto-ungulates, once did thrive in South America. But they flourished while the continent was believed to be covered in dense forest. So what the animals ate was a startling revelation.
It was a plant eater, and we could tell that from its teeth. And we can also tell what sort of plants it ate. It ate ones in open habitats that were very abrasive, that would wear down its teeth, and that's because it has these very tall crown teeth that we call hypsodont. If we take a look in this dimension, we see that they're flat on top, and that's because they get worn down by eating this very tough vegetation.
That very tough vegetation was grass. The discovery of a hoofed grazing animal hardly seems revolutionary. But the ancient grazers discovered at the Tinguiririca fossil dig lived around 32 million years ago. That's about 14 million years older than the African savanna, which until now paleobiologists considered to be the oldest. This gave the termites of the Cerrado, and animals that depended on them, an evolutionary kickstart. But how did these South American grasslands begin? 34 million years ago, a massive geological event took place. Australia finally split from Antarctica, and Gondwana was no more. Freezing polar currents flowed around the newly isolated Antarctica, and it began to ice over. One of the first land masses to feel Antarctica's icy breath was the continent closest to it, South America. It's likely this triggered the forests to shrink in Chile and Brazil, and a new plant to dominate the barren, exposed soils. Humble shoots of grass. Fast-growing and rich in minerals, transformed the South American landscape forever. The fossils found at Tinguiririca represent the grazing mammals that would have also lived on the ancient Cerrado. The universal rule of the natural world is that where you find herds of grazers, you also find large predators. On the Cerrado, one predator was the 3-meter-tall, 350-kilogram terror bird. It couldn't fly, but it could run as fast as a cheetah, a specialized killer. It could swallow some prey in one gulp. The small hoofed grazers and the giant anteater's ancestors all fell victim to the terror bird. But 30 million years later, the giant anteater exists, whereas the terror bird and the hoofed grazers are all long extinct. On the Brazilian Cerrado today, the mud-caked monoliths stand like sentinels, withstanding every extreme the planet throws at them. South America experienced its first ice age. Over the next 2 million years, the cycle of ice ages and warm periods repeated 20 times. ancient grass-eating species went extinct as forests swallowed up the grasslands and their food became scarce. But the tough termites weathered each crisis, and with them, so did the anteater. By relying on tiny, abundant termites, the giant anteater avoided extinction. But to get the most out of its prey, it evolved energy-saving mechanisms. Anteaters have a very small brain in relation to body size. The brain consumes the most energy in a mammal body, so having a small one saves power. Her core body temperature is just 32 degrees Celsius, the lowest of any land mammal. Another energy saver. And she conserves her body heat beneath her hairy coat. These adaptations, plus her habit of sleeping 14 hours a day, have ensured the anteater's success. She's not the only survivor on this mutant planet. This is a maned wolf, named for the shaggy mane on his shoulders. Compared to the anteater, he's a relative newcomer to Brazil's Cerrado. How his ancestors got here is a clue to the geological upheaval that would ultimately wipe out the rest of the ancient grazing animals. The maned wolf is perfectly adapted for life on a grassland. His long, stilt-like legs allow him to see over the tall Cerrado grass. Like any wolf, he'll hunt small mammals. But curiously, maned wolves also eat fruits, especially the fruit of the lobira plant. Lobira, related to the poisonous, deadly nightshade plant, is so bitter most animals avoid it. But the fruits contain compounds that kill giant kidney worms that plague the maned wolf. Without lobira fruits, the wolf's life would be miserable. Strangely, most lobira trees grow on small raised mounds. Maned wolves always defecate on these mounds to mark territories. Their fruity diet assures plenty of lobira seeds in the feces. It just so happens that lobira seeds won't germinate unless eaten by an animal like this. So thanks to the maned wolf, lobira trees flourish on the Cerrado. This is another example of a co-evolutionary pact for mutual survival, triggered by a dramatic geological event. $3 million years ago, a massive tectonic upheaval forced a series of volcanoes out of the sea between North and South America. 100 million years of isolation ended as a land bridge linked the two continents, and in a great interchange, animals began moving from one to the other. Most traffic traveled to South America, including deer, horses, and llamas. And pursuing them was a new breed of predators: foxes, cougars, saber-toothed cats, bears, and wolves. The The carnivores attacked the remaining grazing animals on the grasslands and eventually wiped them out. The ancient terror bird also disappeared, outcompeted by the new predators. With the grazing animals extinct, some carnivores, like the maned wolf, adapted to a new diet. And so began the coevolution of the maned wolf alongside the lobera tree. It's peak dry season on the Cerrado now. There's been no rain for 5 months. The anteater pup, now 18 months old, is growing more independent. He's starting to investigate termite mounds on his own, but lacks the strength to open the clay fortresses. His mother's nurturing is drawing to a close, and soon she'll be ready to breed again. With no water available, she absorbs crucial moisture from her termite diet. In these tough times, the interlinked relationships on the Cerrado make the difference between life and death. On the rocky hills bordering the grasslands, a community of black-striped capuchins also endures the drought. Their ancestors originated in African forests 30 million years ago and arrived in South America well before the Great Interchange, most likely via another method of colonization, rafting on logs or debris across the ocean. Usually, capuchin monkeys feed on fruits and rainforest canopies. The trees on the edge of the Cerrado don't bear much fruit, so the monkeys climb down to forage. There's no shortage of coconuts, though, and the capuchins have figured out how to get the juice. About 3 months ago, these enterprising monkeys harvested another batch of coconuts and left them to dry. And now, they are ready to crack open. The ingenious primates use tools to smash the super tough husks and expose the nutritious nut. Some rocks weigh half as much as the monkey. Repetitive nut bashing and stone carrying have altered the capuchin's leg and back muscles, allowing them to walk upright like humans. The Cerrado's dry climate driving the evolution of this extraordinary behavior. All this noise and activity attracts the attention of the largest carnivorous predator on the Cerrado, the jaguar. The risk of predation is highest as the Cerrado reaches its driest. The vast expanse of the Cerrado is now a sea of parched grasses. The female anteater attracts the attention of a male. He can tell by her scent that she is ready to mate. runs and hides. Giant anteaters mate just once every 2 years because the females can only afford enough energy to raise one pup at a time. As the male leaves, the mom welcomes her pup back, for now. When she's ready to give birth in just over 6 months, the pup must make his own way. At the termite mound, 1-month-old flickerbird chicks also approach their independence. Soon they'll leave the protective walls of their parents' nest. All the mound dwellers grow restless. It's as if they sense something is coming. A change. Is it long-awaited rain? Or an event that could threaten the lives of all the inhabitants of Brazil's Cerrado? Mid-October, and storm clouds gather over the Cerrado. But there's no rain. Instead, the storm produces dry lightning. And suddenly, the Cerrado is on fire. With no rain for 6 months, the fire spreads quickly across the tinder-dry grassland. The Cerrado residents face their toughest ordeal. Those that can, flee, desperate to outrun, outmaneuver the rampant wildfires. The inferno engulfs the termite mounds. When the fire burns itself out, the Cerrado seems lifeless. Sparked by lightning strikes, fire has been an annual event for millions of years. And many inhabitants have learned to avoid its ravages, like the boa constrictor who survived by burrowing underground. Grassland has turned to scorched earth. But the flickerbird chicks are safe, protected by the solid walls built by the termites, along with all the other inhabitants of the mound. The mounds can withstand every disaster in the harsh environment of the Cerrado. They are flame-proof, and the air holes at ground level prevent the inhabitants asphyxiating on smoke and carbon dioxide. Gradually, the survivors appear to take stock. After the fire, rain finally falls. Just as the Cerrado is adapted to drought, it now responds to rain. The plants and trees have their own evolutionary tricks to come back to life after fire. On the burned ground, there is a rush of green as grass seeds germinate. To survive the fires, grasses store their nutrients underground. Even the few trees have evolved thick cork layers to protect the living tissue from fire. activated by rain, the Cerrado transforms into an oasis. Luckily, the giant anteater and her pup escaped this year's fire fronts. Late afternoon, and the rain stops briefly. The conditions are right. Inside the mounds, the queens have been producing offspring different from the usual workers. Termites with wings. And now is the time to reveal why. An invisible signal triggers an exodus of winged males and females from thousands of termite mounds. Once a year, this exquisitely choreographed mating fight is evolution's ingenious method of allowing the siblings from each mound to mate with unrelated termites. It breaks the genetic stranglehold of the single breeding queen from each mound. Every mated female becomes a queen in her own right and returns to the ground with her mate to begin a new mound, eventually laying billions of eggs in her 10-year lifetime. If she lives past tonight. Flocks of birds glide among the mating dancers, gorging themselves on evolution's great gift. As night falls, the termite mounds transform, each sparkling with tiny dots of green light, all appearing synchronized as they start shining. It's as if the stars above the Cerrado have fallen to Earth. This is the larva of the headlight beetle, another mound squatter. A chemical reaction produces green bioluminescence in a pore in its head. These larvae live buried in the mound walls for up to 3 years. And deep within their DNA, they are programmed for this annual event. Their illumination suddenly switches on, and winged termites are attracted by the light. As they fly close, the vibration from their wings causes the larvae to shine more brightly. And it's a fatal attraction. The headlight beetle larvae have waited a year for this feast. The only time they eat. They can't move, so light is all they have to attract food. And without protein, they can't metamorphose from larvae to adults. This spectacular light show illuminates the genius of evolution. But the brilliance doesn't stop there. One last connection unites this community like no other. In the season of growth that follows rain, the Cerrado is busy day and night. New termite mounds are under construction, and the lobira trees grow heavy with fruit, a bonanza for the maned wolf. But of all the species, this is the most industrious. Leaf-cutting ants march in formation, doing what they were named to do. They've been invisible during the drought season because they feed on green plants. Now, this is their time. So how did they survive during the other half of the year? Their underground nest provides shelter and security, and also a secret garden. Inside reveals the difference between the ants and the termites. The ants carry their green leaves underground to a fungus garden. Termites eat their dried grasses and convert the cellulose into protein. But leafcutter ants can't do this. Instead, they feed the grasses to the fungus, which absorbs the nutrients. The ants tend the fungus garden all year round, and the fungus returns the favor by providing all the food for the colony. Now in the wet season of new growth, the ants work overtime to gather food for the fungus garden. The ants carry in leaves, flowers, and most importantly, seeds. Last night, the maned wolf feasted on fruit. And, as he always does to mark his territory, he defecated on top of a small mound. Now, the industrious leafcutter ants confiscate the lobira seeds which have passed through the wolf's digestive system and down they go into the nest where they are fed to the fungi. Some of these seeds germinate inside the nest and grow up out of the fungus garden, through the roof of the tunnels and out into the sunlight. That explains why lobira trees usually grow on mounds, with the well-tended fungus garden below providing nutrients for its roots. Lobira trees grow all year in the arid Cerrado, benefiting the wolves and the ants. Another ancient partnership providing mutual advantage for each link in the chain of life. However, there is one influence that disrupts the beautiful synchronizations of life in the Cerrado. Eventually, humans arrived here. And like the termites and ants, learn to reap the savanna for their own benefit. Modern irrigation countered the annual drought, turning the Cerrado into one of the major sources of soybeans and corn in the world. disregarded the intricate chain of life so essential here in the Cerrado. They take more than their share and fail to give back. Agriculture has reduced the size of the Cerrado by 2/3 over the past 50 years. But what remains is now protected. Months of frequent rain have transformed the grassland. The anteater pup, now independent, will soon separate permanently from his mother, who is pregnant once again. Meanwhile, he's busting into mounds now. Those built by a new generation of winged queens are still soft enough for a pup to break into. When he grows bigger, he'll have what it takes to break into numerous, huge termite mounds towering over this grassland. But like his mother, he'll take only a strict quota at each feast. And he'll never spend more than 3 minutes on one mound. Buried deep within this young anteater's DNA is an ancient code to ensure he remains true to this remarkable partnership. As long as he honors the contract, the queendoms of termites will continue to thrive, alongside all the other links in the complex chain of life that makes up Brazil's Cerrado. Unique to this mutant